A wife should follow her husband. Listen, don't you dare embarrass me. Even inviting just my sister over, Tom puts pressure on me. Is public appearance that important to him? To me, she's my dear, precious sister. For me, who lost my parents, she's the only one I can truly trust, yet somehow I can't feel at ease. It must be because Tom is there. However, the situation changes. Hey, Tom. Why is there something behind you? That was my sister's first comment upon seeing Tom. Hearing that, Tom visibly panicked. Watching that, I was sure I hadn't been mistaken. My name is Julie Andrew. I'm a housewife in my 30s. I met my husband Tom a few years ago at the company we worked for. He was the ace everyone admired, working in the same department as me. I was one of those who admired Tom. So, when he proposed, I was shocked. Tom, the envy of our colleagues, and me, just an unremarkable employee. Yet, Tom had been paying attention to me. I was really happy about that. I accepted Tom's proposal with 2 conditions. After that, we started dating and quickly got married. That was because I was reaching my 30s, and if I considered having children, sooner was better. At Tom's insistence, I resigned from the company I had been working for. It seemed too hard to manage both work and household chores. Eventually, I would have to take care of children, and clearly, there wouldn't be enough time. Tom wasn't poorly paid, so I thought we could manage. However, we were unable to have children as we had hoped. No matter how many times we try, we can't get pregnant. Frustrated, Tom told me to go for fertility treatments. But, isn't this something couples do together? I feel uneasy going alone, and I want Tom to come with me. These days, it's understood that infertility isn't just a woman's issue. Thinking that identifying the cause could lead to a solution, I suggested we go to the gynecologist together, adding that I would rearrange my schedule. However, Tom grimaced at my words. That place isn't for men. You should just go by yourself quickly and take care of what's needed. Don't make me get involved. How can you say that? It's normal for couples to deal with fertility treatments together. It might even be your issue too. When I said that, Tom, who had been calm, suddenly shouted, "What did you say?" Startled by his sudden change in demeanor, I fell to the ground. Tom looked down at me with a vein popping on his forehead. Are you saying I'm defective? A wife shouldn't talk back. Listen, it's your fault we can't have kids. You're the problem. You're a defective wife, and that's why we're not blessed with children. His harsh words left me speechless. Only fear dominated my mind as I kept apologizing and, once Tom calmed down, I fled to my room. Since we got married, I've been unable to stand up to Tom. Tom believes a woman should support her man and a wife is her husband's slave, and has tried to control me in every way. At that time, I didn't even have the capacity to see how wrong this was. If I ever tried to stand up to Tom, he would shout, pressure me, and force me to fold my stance. The thought of divorce strangely never crossed my mind. Looking back, I see Tom as a terrifying figure I must never cross, which is probably why I couldn't even conceive of betraying him. If I had divorced Tom and escaped from his control, I wouldn't have faced such a terrible outcome. Despite undergoing fertility tests at the gynecologist's, no issues were found with me. So, could it be Tom? No matter how much I pleaded, he refused to get tested, insisting, there can't be anything wrong with me. If you're fine, it'll happen eventually. In the end, we never discovered the cause of our inability to conceive. Though my in-laws never pressed us, they occasionally mentioned how relatives had recently welcomed grandchildren, making me feel subtly pressured. It's not that we're rushing you, but you know, children aren't something you can just have any time. It might be hard if you decide you want them later. Hearing this from my mother-in-law made me feel uncomfortable. It's not that I don't want children. On the contrary, I love kids and was determined to cherish my own if I had any. But what can't be, can't be. So I just plastered on a fake smile and got through those moments. Julie is such a sloppy wife. Tom must feel awkward because of it," said my father-in-law, with Tom nodding in agreement. "Yeah, really. At home, she keeps nagging me to help with chores or to go to the hospital. It's really cramped living like this." Hearing Tom's words, my in-laws frowned in sympathy. Indeed, I had asked for help with the chores, but it was only when I was feeling ill, and since Tom was off that day, I merely asked him to take out the laundry from wash machine. Yet, Tom furiously said, "How can you make your husband do household chores when you're a stay-at-home wife?" Since then, no matter how bad I felt, I've dealt with everything myself, but Tom, with his good public face, has gained immense trust from my in-laws. Therefore, if Tom says something, it's taken as the absolute truth. I was inevitably painted as the villain by my in-law family, making it unbearable to visit them. Yet, Tom disliked being alone with me at home and would always say, "We should visit my parents over the weekend. My mom and dad worry about me. I'm their precious only son, I need to show my face regularly, or they'll worry." Even though I objected, I was forcefully taken to visit his parents. My parents died in a car accident a few years ago, and the only family I can call mine is my sister Kelly. Yet, while Tom frequently wants to see his parents, he strongly dislikes it when I want to see my family. "You're already a member of the Andrews family. You should be devoted to me and my parents, don't forget that." All I could do was nod in agreement to Tom's words, hating myself more than anything else. In the end, I never got to meet my sister Kelly. We just exchanged messages or talked over the phone when Tom wasn't around. Over the phone, Kelly sounded worried about me, her voice tinged with anxiety. "Are you really okay? Should I come over next time?" After all, I haven't even met Tom yet. By this time, Tom and I had been married for 3 years, yet Kelly and Tom had never met face to face. Normally, you'd expect to visit each other's families when you get married, but Kelly was too busy with work to find the time. She was at the wedding, which was a large event with many bosses and friends invited, so there wasn't much time for personal greetings, and we agreed to greet the relatives when there was more time. Therefore, although Kelly knew what Tom looked like, she didn't really know what kind of person he was. And the same was true from Tom's perspective. "That sister of yours, I bet she's nothing special. No parents even. She's got nothing good going for her. She'll probably end up old and alone." Tom often laughed and said such things about Kelly. Every time he spoke like that, all I could do was bite my lip and look down. How could I not be angry when he spoke ill of my only important family member? Yet, having come to see Tom as a terrifying figure, I couldn't muster the courage to contradict him. However, the situation was about to change abruptly. The trigger was that Kelly's birthday was approaching. Glancing at the calendar, I realized it was already close to next month. Time seemed to be moving faster than I thought, and I sighed involuntarily. "What? Is there something you're unhappy about?" Seeing me like that, Tom looked displeased. Worried that I had angered him, I stammered out the situation. "I just realized that Kelly's birthday is coming up soon. That's all it is, so don't worry about it," I said, trying to smile as if to cover up. I worried whether I managed to smile properly, but seeing my expression, Tom grinned. Right, Tom said with a slightly creepy smile. "Come to think of it, I haven't met your sister yet. Bring her over next time. It's about time we did the greetings." I couldn't help but exclaim, "What?" Tom had always acted like he couldn't care less about my sister. What changed? The joy of seeing my sister after so many years mixed with suspicion jumbled my thoughts. "A fragile wife like you must have a hard time doing the housework by herself. Since she's single anyway, I'll persuade her to help you with the housework. It'll be good for me too, since I'll have 2 more slaves." Hearing Tom continue like this, I frowned, realizing he just wanted another servant. Though my sister Kelly is single, she has her own life. Hearing Tom's words made me hesitant to call her, but by then, it was already set in motion that I would invite her over, so I decided to just make it a meeting and contacted her. "A wife should follow her husband. Don't you dare embarrass me," As the day of Kelly's arrival approached, I was bombarded daily with such demands. He was probably trying to pressure me into not seeking help from my sister. But I never wanted to bother her with my personal problems anyway, so it was all in vain. Eventually, the day came when my sister came to our house. As I was doing housework and waiting, the doorbell rang. "Sis, long time no see." When I opened the door, there stood Kelly. It had been since the wedding since we last met, but she looked as lively as ever, which was a relief. I invited her in, and Tom, who had dressed up more than usual, appeared. Initially, Tom stood tall and puffed up his chest, but he froze the moment he saw Kelly. "Is something wrong?" No, not really." After all, Kelly was incredibly beautiful. Her beauty was such that she had been chosen for her university's beauty pageant multiple times. Back when we were in school, there were attempts to connect with my sister Kelly, with people reaching out to me to help make that happen. It's sad to admit, but I'm not very attractive. Makeup can fix that up to a point, but Kelly has a beauty that transcends all of that. When Tom first saw Kelly, he blushed slightly and stared at her. It seemed like his mouth was hanging open, and honestly, it made me feel sick. I stepped between them. "Let me introduce you. This is my sister, Kelly. Kelly, this is my husband, Tom. Thank you for coming today." Kelly smiled and said, "Thank you," but Tom's gaze was fixed on her. Seeing Tom like this, Kelly looked puzzled. I thought maybe Tom's intrusive staring was bothering me, but Kelly's next comment cleared up that misunderstanding. "Hey, Tom, why is there a baby behind you?" Tom looked confused by Kelly's words. I didn't understand her at first either, but then I remembered something about her condition. Kelly has a unique sensitivity. Since she was little, she would point at empty spaces, smiling and talking as if someone was there. Of course, our parents found it odd and asked her if someone was there. Kelly claimed it was our great-grandfather, who had already passed away by then. It seems like she might have a kind of sixth sense. It was a sensation I couldn't understand, but living with her, I naturally came to accept that Kelly sees things. She never tried to hide her ability, greeting and laughing at thin air. People who found this eerie naturally drifted away from her, but Kelly, who welcomes all and chases none, continued behaving as she pleased without worrying about others. Her being unmarried might also be due to this mindset. People who approached her just based on her looks often got scared off after seeing her behavior. But Kelly herself didn't seem bothered by it. "Kelly, what are you seeing exactly?" Curious about Kelly mentioning a baby, I asked her to explain. Then, my sister detailed what she could see behind Tom. According to Kelly, it wasn't just one presence behind Tom. Blurry baby-like figures are clinging to Tom's back, some even hugging his body. Julie mentioned having trouble conceiving, but that's probably most likely Tom's fault. Tom exclaimed, "What?" as he turned pale imagining the described scene, his usual facade crumbling as he began to sweat and glared at Kelly and me. "What is this about ghosts or whatever? They can't be real. Are you trying to scare me? That's in poor taste." Kelly wasn't trying to frighten anyone. She was just reporting what she saw. Suddenly, Kelly smiled at Tom. Or so I thought, but her gaze wasn't on him. It was directed at the baby behind him. "Poor thing," she muttered. According to her, all the baby figures had pained expressions, as if they were glaring at Tom like enemies. "What did you do? These children seem to hold a grudge against you. You'll probably face severe consequences if this continues. They already have enough influence to affect you. It wouldn't be surprising if things took an irreversible turn," Kelly said earnestly, clearly not joking. Such is the dire state of Tom's situation. Why had things come to this? Why were these babies attached to Tom? I couldn't imagine why and swallowed hard. "Tom, what did you do? Why has it come to this? Ordinarily, this wouldn't happen." Kelly added, "I've never seen anyone in this state before. It must take something significant to be resented by so many babies." What exactly had Tom done? Initially, Tom remained silent, but as our stern looks wore him down, he began to shout in desperation. What the heck? I was just playing around. Why has it come to this? Just playing around? What do you mean? When I heard Tom's words, something clicked. I asked him, and Tom hesitantly closed his mouth, looking uncomfortable. The vision of many babies in Tom's demeanor seemed to give away the answer. Could it be, were you cheating? Tom quickly responded, no. But his face, pale and sweaty, suggested he was lying. Observing our interaction, my sister Kelly, who had been quiet, spoke up, may I say something? She then shared her understanding. These babies are probably Tom's children. They were supposed to be born but couldn't be. They want to be born, and that's why they are clinging to Tom. Hearing this, I realized my suspicions were correct. Tom had been involved with multiple women. And it likely continued even after our marriage. He had physical relationships with many women, leading to pregnancies that ended in abortions. As a result, the poor children who never got to be born harbored feelings of resentment, haunting their father, Tom. Unbelievable. I had struggled to have children, but to me, children are precious. Yet, what Tom and his mistresses did was as if they were dismissing these children. Regardless of whether they were wanted or not, what they did was infuriating. Of course, the cheating itself was unforgivable. It was a betrayal to me. But now, I thought it was good I hadn't gotten pregnant. If I had, my child might have ended up as one of those haunting Tom. The thought was overwhelmingly painful. With our disdainful looks upon him, Tom became flustered. Then he burst out, don't say stupid things. There's no way ghosts exist. You two must have conspired against me. I don't know anything. I really don't know anything. It seemed Tom had no intention of admitting his guilt. I can understand why it's hard to believe in my sister's abilities. I understand that the abilities my sister Kelly has are real, having spent years with her, but for Tom, who met her for the first time today, such things aren't easily believed. However, if it were just some insignificant lie, he wouldn't be so rattled. Tom's reaction itself supports what Kelly is saying. If there was nothing on his mind, he could just stand firm. His inability to do so indicates he has something to hide. It doesn't really matter, but given the suspicions of your infidelity, I'm going to do what I need to do. Let's take some time apart. I don't want to live with someone who might have incurred the wrath of so many babies. I had never felt the urge to stand up to Tom before. Because I saw him as a terrifying figure who must not be crossed. But now, I feel differently. Tom is a frightening figure. Perhaps more than I ever realized. But hearing Kelly's words, I couldn't just forgive and forget. I can't continue a marital life with such a person. It's better to end it right here. Tom looked shocked at my words. What? Why? You loved me, didn't you? Why would you come to such a conclusion? Surprisingly, Tom seemed to misunderstand that I didn't want a divorce because I still loved him. How naive. After enduring pressure day after day, cold stares, and forced interactions with in-laws I never wanted, it's absurd to think I could still harbor any love. The affection I once had for Tom has faded over the years. Now, I only feel a profound fear towards him, but no love remains. Please, don't say anything absurd. Like I could still love you after all the horrible things you've said. Just stop, let's get divorced. I've reached my limit. There's no need for me to remain married to someone like you. I made my intentions clear. I'm done spending any more time on Tom. It's best to cut ties and keep my distance. Ignoring Tom's attempt to stop me, I went back to my room. I grabbed only the most essential belongings and returned to the living room. Kelly, who had been quietly observing everything, seemed to understand what I intended to do, but she didn't reproach me. I'll be leaving now. I'll send the divorce papers by mail later, don't forget to file them. Hey! Wait! Tom called out, but I ignored him and took my sister Kelly's hand, leaving the house. Despite the sudden decision, Kelly smiled at me warmly and suggested, "Let's go to my place for now." Kelly's house was a bit far from the home I shared with Tom, but as I had been a stay-at-home wife, it wouldn't affect my job search or the process of finding a new place to live. We settled on me staying with her for a while. "You can stay as long as you need," she told me, but I knew it wasn't good to rely on family forever. Having missed Kelly so much over the years we couldn't meet, I thought about finding a place close to her even when I get my own. Kelly even suggested I apply at her company, because they were short on office staff. I had the right qualifications for an office job, so I decided to go for an interview. I received high praise and was offered a job through a mid-career entry. One day, while relaxing at home after work, the doorbell rang. Earlier than Kelly's usual return. I was puzzled for a moment but assumed it must be a delivery and opened the door, only to find Tom standing there. "How did you find this place?" I exclaimed. Tom wasn't supposed to know where Kelly lived. "How could you know where this is?" Seeing him again, when I thought our paths would never cross, made me break out in a cold sweat. Unperturbed, Tom, who looked a bit thinner, explained, "I saw you near the station the other day. I followed you from there and figured out this is where you live. Look, Julie, let's start over. Divorce isn't good. Ever since then, I keep hearing things. Voices saying they won't forgive me." It seemed Tom might have lost his senses. Or perhaps, the children clinging to him were venting their feelings of resentment. I can't be sure without Kelly here, but having spent so much time with her, I've become somewhat knowledgeable about these matters. Despite this, Tom continued, "And things have been strange at home too. Just the other day, I found nails in the bathroom, tiny ones, like from a baby." Tom spoke in utter desperation. If left as it is, things would surely turn irretrievable, just as Kelly had said. It might already be too late. Yet, I felt no inclination to extend a helping hand to the pitiful man before me. "Please, come back. Or at least call your sister right now. I was wrong. I won't betray you again. Please, just help me." He must have been extremely desperate. Tom simultaneously prostrated himself right there on the spot. Prostrating in front of someone's house, how disgraceful. The Tom of just a short while ago would not have done this due to his pride. I realized how cornered he must feel, and I couldn't help but smirk a bit. Tom kept pleading, "Please, I beg you. Since it's my sister's house and it would be troublesome if the neighbors saw." I decided to give him a bit of attention. But I wasn't going to truly offer a helping hand. "Isn't this just desserts? You shouldn't have done things to earn such resentment. If you had behaved properly as an adult, none of this would have happened, right? It's all because of you and your affairs." "Don't be so cold," Tom replied, no longer denying his infidelity. He was clearly distressed. But even if he begged, I was not in the spirit to help him. "I'm sorry, but give it up. We are not going to help you," I said firmly. Yet Tom shook his head in refusal and clung to my feet. "Don't be so cold. I'm really at my wit's end. If things continue like this, I might really suffer terribly. I'll take any help I can get, please. I can't do anything without you, Julie." His absurd claims nearly made me dizzy. The label of a terrifying figure I had for Tom was rapidly peeling away. Before me was just a pitiful man. Yet, the sins he accumulated were real, and I owed him no assistance. "This is your own doing. If you had behaved responsibly as an adult, you wouldn't be in this situation. Why couldn't you understand that? I suffered terribly being married to you. I should have divorced you much sooner." Hearing my words, Tom appeared relieved. His face was so amusing that I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Then, with a smile still on my face, I said, "Please leave. If you don't go now, I'll call the police." "The police?" It seemed that the last thing he wanted was to deal with the police because, At my words, Tom panicked and ran off as fast as he could. Later, when my sister Kelly came home, I explained the situation. She hadn't expected such a thing to happen and commented with a troubled expression, "Living people can be much scarier, huh?" As expected, Tom was reluctant to go through with our divorce. Feeling that we were getting nowhere, I decided to hire a lawyer. When I told Tom that if he did not divorce me, we would have to go to court, he seemed reluctant to do so and reluctantly accepted the divorce. As ridiculous as it sounds, even through this ordeal, Tom did not stop seeing his mistresses. Perhaps in his pressured situation, that was the only enjoyment he had left. For caution, I had hired a detective to keep track of Tom's activities. Though I thought it would be difficult to gather evidence after his infidelity was exposed, I was surprised to receive a large number of photos when the detective reported back. Using this evidence, I demanded alimony from Tom and several of his mistresses. Most of them left him after this, it seems. Eventually left alone, Tom lived in fear of irreversible consequences, shrinking away from life. Soon, he could hardly manage his job and was practically fired. His parents, who had previously boasted about their precious only son, no longer had the energy to care for their troubled child. Tom was left to pay off his debts from the alimony by doing whatever day jobs he could find. Meanwhile, I was thriving at the company where Kelly worked. I had recently been promoted due to my excellent performance. Although I had found a nice house, considering everything with Tom, I decided it would be better for Kelly and me to live together. In these uncertain times, it seemed wiser for us to be together rather than alone. My brief marriage had been a hellish ordeal. But this experience seemed to have deepened my bond with my sister. "Happy birthday, Julie," Kelly said, celebrating my 30th birthday. I was overwhelmed with joy, my cheeks loosening with happiness. I will continue to cherish my sister, my only family, from now on. That was my renewed resolution.